want to apologize.
Oh, sorry.
I want to apologize up front if you hear this noise in the background. They decided to rip out a wall or something in the house next door, and I'm hearing this pounding. And I have all the windows closed, but if it's not interfering, that's what I need to know. So thank you very much, Chris, for the invitation to address this group. I'm really feel honored to be here, and I want to thank Steve Warner in particular for having the confidence to recommend me to Chris. It's a joy to be here. I also might add to our friends here from Uganda and Kenya that I've worked on water projects in both those countries. Like one of the first ones was down in the Masai Mara, Kenya, involving 8 villages. So it's just great to have folks here, as was commented earlier, from the other part of the world, and I really feel honored. I need to share, Steve or Chris. Is that all right? You there for that? Oops, wait a minute. Okay, do you see that now? Hello? I can't hear you, Chris.
We see it. We see it. Go ahead.
Okay, you see it. Okay,
See it.
thank you. I just didn't want to start talking without. Okay. So I'm writing to you or presenting to you right now from Bahia de Caracas in Ecuador. This is where I've been a Rotary member now for about 12 years. My earlier part of my 35 years in Rotary was spent in the District 5340 of San Diego, where I began doing international projects, arranging financing, and now I'm on the other end doing design and implementation. And you can see some of our Rotarians and interactors, and there's some Rotaractors and exchange students in this photo as well. Just to be clear, some people, I'm surprised how many people do not know where Ecuador is, and I just want to show you on the left, it's in the Western Hemisphere. It's not in Asia or in the Philippines or anywhere like that. It's on the western hump of South America. It's interesting, if you will, that being on the Pacific Ocean, I am from California, and I kind of think of like California on the Pacific Ocean, but we're actually in the time zone of the eastern part of the United States. There's just a quick map of the country, shows the Pan American Highway going through Quito, going south through the Andes Mountains, down into Peru. There's Guayaquil, the largest city and the port, and then Bahia de Caracas is up here on the northwest coast, approximately due west from Quito, but whereas Quito is at 9,000 feet, Bahia de Caracas is on the ocean.
Say,
Hey,
Bill, it
Bill.
doesn't
Oh,
look
go
like
ahead.
your slides are advancing there.
Pardon me, they didn't, well, now it is. Do you see the new pictures? Or no?
No, I'm wondering if you're sharing, it looks like you're sharing the PowerPoint screen instead of the presentation, maybe.
Uh-oh.
We see
Well,
the small
all right,
small pictures on the left.
Oh, well, I thought that my screen shows the full layout, you know, where you put it on the presentation mode. So I don't
Nope.
see any of this, I don't see any of the small pictures.
Okay, you might need to reshare.
I'm gonna unshare. Yeah, let's see what happens. You don't see it anymore, right? It's gone.
It went away.
Yeah.
And Bill, I'm surprised you didn't share that Ecuador, as one of my coworkers in Ecuador told me, has the tallest mountain in the world.
No, that's not correct.
If you measure
It
from
has
the
some-
center
it
of
has-
the world to the top of the mountain, it is the tallest.
Well, that's right. I've heard that. When I say not correct, I've heard that put a different way, and that way that I've heard is that. No, I can't get where I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. I can't. Okay, do you see it now?
Now it looks like that same
Well, now you
PowerPoint.
have the little pictures on the left, right?
Correct.
So I'm going to go here to full mode, see, you know, for presentation.
See if it follows. It might not,
Well,
because
mine
your
just
full.
changed to full mode.
Yeah, this one didn't.
All right, then let's go back and just do it the other way. You can see it now?
Yeah.
All right, we'll just leave it this mode, I guess.
All right.
So anyway, yeah, just that point about was, my understanding is, and I guess that's the way they do it, they measure from the center of the earth to the highest point on the earth. and the Earth is, of course, not round, and so at the equator, it's a greater distance than it is from the center of the Earth to the top of Mount Everest, for example. But somebody else told me that's not the way they measured it. They measure it from the sun to that point, because they say Chimborazo is the closest to the sun. So it depends upon your angle or point of view about it. But I agree with them that it's supposed to be closer to the sun than Everest anyway. So, okay. So I just want to say that, they studies show that 80% of the children who die before the age of 5 in the world die because of a waterborne illness. And these two photos are very poignant in showing that. The kids are often the ones who have to go get the water. They get it from contaminated places. And they miss out on school and use up calories that they need at the same time. At the same time, on the right, I just want to show you a little thing that was really interesting. This guy on the right with the red hat, he's a Rotarian engineer, and he created this drill with a number of extension bits. And it's a hand drill, and he goes around to communities, and he says, you can use my equipment, I'll help you drill a water well, but you have to supply the manpower. And so they have to always have 4 or 5 guys. And I came along to see, and they needed extra weight to get the bit to grab in a hard area, and so there I am. This is a recent history of the past 10 or 12 years, I guess now, of projects that my club has done. You can see that these are almost all of them except one are global grant projects, the numbers on the left. In the center, you can see that most of them were community potable water systems, which is what I'll focus on after this slide. And we also have a couple of other major projects we've done in health and economic development. Most of the projects are completed, and you can see in the right column in the upper right that some are still involved with. We still have 5 projects going on right now in my club. So we're very active, I would say. 40% of Ecuadorians don't have access to safe water. This kind of seepage method of getting water that you see here out of a stream is common. They dig a pit next to the stream, they wait for the water to horizontally filter into the pit, and then they put in some black tubes, and by siphoning, try to get it to go downriver to wherever they want it to go. Assessments are critical. We do this in all our water projects. We're out there walking around, we're collecting data. We get the Ministry of Water to participate, as well as the engineers from the local government involved. To try to get as many heads together as possible, along with, of course, the community leadership and other people in the community. And so in the photo on the right in particular, we're all there talking about whether this is a good spot to drill a well. And you got, 4 or 5 engineers, at least one hydrologist there, president of the community, and the leader of the water board, who happens to be a veterinarian. So there's a lot of good minds here trying to determine this situation. But it also involves going out. And we walk up to water sources. We sometimes have to machete our way through dense, what you would call forests, to find the best water source. It's always a key indicator to me who goes with us as to how involved or committed the community is, or the leadership. And I particularly like the photo on the left, where the ones on the right are all in the Bahia region, but the one on the left is up out of Riobamba in the High Sierra. And it was a credible group of men who had already brought water down from the highlands and were seeking help to extend it to their different farms. And they all went with me and talked with me as we walked around up and down the hills. It was a great confirmation of a willingness to participate. We go to the communities, we hold forums, we hold meetings, we introduce ourselves, we explain what Rotary is, we talk about being a nonprofit, volunteer, not political, not religious. We're not going to own anything, we're not making any money, as we try to build confidence in the people that trust us enough to begin to express to us what they need for their communities or what they see as important to achieve there. Often they're held in schoolrooms, and often, like on the right, and out in the open air under a tree. This is a couple of examples of our preliminary project budgets. These are two projects that were later approved and are now still in operation. You can see there, without me reading everything, the list of the different types of expenditures that we include in these projects. And we basically have followed this general model over and over in all the situations, except as circumstances dictate that we modify it. But our whole point is that rather than going in and just drilling a well, or going in and just doing treatment, or we're going into communities that have nothing, and we want to leave them with a functioning system from the source to the house. And that's our overall objective here. This also involves the water ministry coming in and informing the public about the water project from the point of view of the government, so they understand that, yeah, there is a water law in Ecuador that governs how this water can be extracted and used. There's also declaration in the law that water is free, and sometimes we have to help people understand, yeah, the water's free, but the transportation and treatment is not free. And they already know that because they often have to pay a tank truck to bring them water. But you can see here are some different community forums where we're talking to the people, we're explaining who we are. The water ministry is talking with them, and then the water ministry at some point in this process conducts an election of the water board. In some cases, the water board's already there when we start in the community. They've been struggling for years maybe to get something to happen. But in other communities, it's a brand new idea, and so we talk a lot about the idea of local government. There is no local government really in these communities. I mean, there's government, but it doesn't do anything in these communities, doesn't have a presence, doesn't have an office in these communities. And so this is their first time that they're going to do some self-governing, I would call it. We also do work to get the collaboration of the large canton governments, which these communities are inside of, and get formal commitments from the mayor and the government to provide insurances as part of a package, if you will, to increase the probability of sustainability of the project. It's also a great opportunity to promote Rotary's image and local involvement, because the mayors almost always want to do this in a big public forum where they're giving, they're talking about the achievements that they've made during the year, and during that they've signed this with us. We develop water sources, as I said. Wells have been what most of them have been. We found a contractor that we've used now for about 8 or 9 projects. He's been very reliable, although here lately he's had some family unhappiness, and that's with deaths and so forth. And so that's we're looking to do something different now in Rio Muchacho. But you can see where we've had, we're always checking out the water, taking photos of water, and in the upper right, there's water ministry people there with us, and one of the vice mayors has got his hand down there at the water too, because he's happy that the water's there. And you can see the happy board president there standing next to the new well, and he's just been a good president, and they've carried on that project. We always involve the local community members, at least if we can, in some kind of physical labor, something that they can give, or what, maybe it's food for visitors, something that they have a way of contributing so that they can begin to feel that the project is part of them, or that they are owners of this project. Often it includes digging a trench like you see on the right, but we also sometimes can get equipment for trenching, particularly in more difficult areas. We always install at least one, I think it's 10,000 liter, maybe 20,000 liter. I'm not the engineer. And the photo here on the left is Pablo Moreno. He is also a Rotary cadre. He's a WASH cadre. And it just turns out that we both got involved in this together way back in the beginning. And we've been project partners from the beginning, and we continue to do them. And we put in we usually put in an elevated water tank to create pressure, so that there's gravitational pressure to reach all aspects of the district, if you will, of all areas of the district. And then we encourage the community board to be thinking right away, one of their first acts is to try to increase that reservoir capacity. And on the right, you can see Pablo's inspecting a tank, and when we're doing a monitoring of the Pueblo Nuevo project, and he's inspecting a tank that was added on by the community. Well, of course, there's security issues. We always have either, like you can see, 2 different kinds here, where there's treatment equipment inside. Just depends upon where we are and how we do it. But security is also a constant issue in the development of the project, so we can be sure that whatever's installed is not vandalized or treated badly. Water meters, people to connect to the system usually have to pay the water board a set amount, like maybe $5 just to connect. And then they get the meters installed, and they can then connect, and then it's up to them how much they want to extend it into their house. And you see a wide variance of people who do not extend at all, except to maybe a hose, and then others who are able to put in more development, like even into a sink in a kitchen or to a shower. Water board training is essential, as it is for all global grant projects, and training is essential. And in this case, for this, you see some photos of training that were provided to 4 water boards at the same time by representatives of the canton government. And you have an engineer on the right showing different aspects of the water treatment and chlorine treatment on the right. There's an accountant, and I believe it's an attorney, who are talking about legal and financial aspects of operating the water district. Remember, these are the people on these water boards are rarely college educated. A large number of them haven't even graduated from high school. That's why I mentioned that the current one we're working with, a veterinarian, is very unusual. But here they are ending their training in this one group, and they're also getting some training you can see there on how to add on new consumer lines. Because all the research shows that after you get safe water in the community, the population grows. Friends, families, others move in. And so they have to anticipate expansion. We also have a hygiene education component, the Age of Wash, and we've been using this curriculum that you can see this group of teachers and me holding up. It's called 8 Actions or 8 Steps for Safe Water. Talks about environmental protections of water around the house and in the community, as well as, of course, hand washing. We were emphasizing hand washing before pandemic, and now I suspect when we do this in service again, it's going to be something that we're going to have a lot more knowledge among the people about. On the right, you can see a teacher implementing it with her students. There is a CD that comes with it as well, and a video. Unfortunately, a lot of the classes don't have the equipment that you see there. This is my laptop and my Rotary Club's projector. But we tried that out anyway to see how it would work there. Also, you learn by doing, and this is a good example of the hand washing. This teacher, I was an elementary school teacher. Every classroom I ever worked in had a sink and water faucet and maybe even a drinking fountain on that sink. And you just don't see that at all here in rural Ecuador. And so she had to bring in that water, bring in that little bowl, and move that wastebasket in there to be able to show how to demonstrate hand washing. And then every one of those little kids went through demonstrating that they knew how to wash their hands too. And I just caught this one picture of this boy. I love it because he's going gung-ho all the way up to the elbows. And I think he must have seen some adult do that before. We continue monitoring after the project is completed is really important. I don't know how many times, and I'm going to get in the cadre part in a few minutes here, how many times as a cadre have realized that people don't follow up, they don't do any monitoring, they think once it's built, they're done. And I always allow at least a year to 2 on a water project to continue monitoring before we basically, put our attention elsewhere. Always put in a sign. You guys know the Rotary Foundations, will let you spend up to $500 for signage, and they really like it. And here in this case, you can see the Rotary clubs that sponsored this project, as well as the autonomous canton government. I give them credit, and then of course Rotary International. We always have an inauguration or celebration of the project. These are something that this is in keeping with Ecuadorian culture as much as the desire of the Rotary Club. And you can see the mayor here in his plaid shirt. He's out there signing, cutting the ribbon with the leader of the water board, a couple of other politicians here, and there's one of our Rotarians and me in the background. And here we are, a group of proud Rotarians at another place getting their picture. They all came out for this celebration, and we appreciate their support. Okay, I'm going to switch gears now and talk about Rotary Foundation technical cadres. I've been fortunate to be a cadre now for about 12 years. And you can see here basically the list of duties of a cadre. I say duties or obligations. People think we just evaluate projects. We do, and that's talked about in the bottom line, but we do a lot of consulting, a lot of training. We're here to, help people understand the rules, understand the regs, understand maybe how to get some financing, how to develop the global grant application, the needs assessment process, and so forth. And so it's been a great thing. I say for me personally, it's been a wonderful experience. I just did one about a month ago, one of the first ones now that the COVID restraints were relaxed. And it was good to be back in the saddle, so to speak. So what does it take to become a cadre? Because we're always recruiting. In fact, the foundation trustees now have made it a strategic goal to increase significantly the number of cadres throughout the world, as they now believe that this is a part of their strategy to develop better and more sustainable projects. So you have to be a cadre, to be eligible, you have to have a professional or demonstrated expertise in an area applicable to one of the Rotary Foundation's now 7 areas of interest. And you can see I've listed the areas of there, okay? For me personally, because of my background is all in education and as a teacher, principal, school superintendent, then I'm a cadre for number 2, basic educational literacy. But I've been also at it for a while, so they now send me out on other ones even related to water that have some questions about sustainability. And also the second criteria is that you have experience managing a Rotary Foundation Global Grant project. And I say managing, I think they say participating, but to me managing is the most profound part of the experience. And so you're going to be more valuable if you've actually worked on global grant projects. You can write to cadre@rotary.org to get more information, and they'll come back to you quickly. cadre@rotary.org. So what happens as a cadre? You get an email from the Rotary Foundation inviting you to conduct an evaluation. It may be a paper evaluation, it may be an on-site evaluation, and they'll say that, and then they'll also say that it has to be done by a certain date that they put in the future. Usually this invitation comes up, I would say, approximately 4 months before that date that they put in this invitation. So of course you look at your own calendar and decide whether, are you available? Secondly, do you want to go there, etc. And then you have to respond. And then once you respond positively, then they send a letter out to the host clubs, to the International Lead Club as well as the host club, and inform them that they're going to receive a cadre visit. They announce, they give them my name, and they basically say in so many words, this is part of what you must do for participating in a global grant, that you have to work with a cadre to make this visit a positive experience. I'm saying that. That's not the words they use, but I think you understand what I mean. So then what happens after they send out that letter, I send out my own letter to both groups, and it's introduction. This is who I am. This is my background in Rotary. This is my background professionally, so they can begin to get to know me and hopefully have some confidence that I'm bringing with them some knowledge and experiences that will be helpful. At the same time, we do in that first letter try to start to determine when are going to be the 3 days for the visit. The foundation authorizes 3 days of on-site visit. Sometimes that can be extended to 4 or even to 5, depending upon the logistics and the terms of the project. But these are 3 full days. If you do this, you know that you're going to be going from maybe even breakfast, but certainly from around 8 o'clock until 5 or 6 o'clock, and then sometimes in the evening, and depending upon whether they have a club meeting or some other event that you want to attend. You've got to get these dates fixed early on, and so it usually takes going back and forth a few times with that board, with that host club, to get those dates fixed. As an educator, I have to caution them to be sure that the dates they're talking about are dates when classes are in session, when it's a regular kind of school week, not something attached to holidays or for whatever reason it's not going to be what you would call typical routine operation. Then you talk about where you might be able to stay as far as sleeping, recommend some hotels or hostels that are, they're going to be within the range that the Rotary Foundation will finance, and of course arrange for them to have in-project transportation, because it's a valuable way to continue the conversation with Rotarians as they drive from one point to another while you're there. Air travel is all handled through the Rotary Foundation. Once you get the dates settled, you arrange with the foundation travel representative to get the airline flights reserved. Before you even go into you can't see this up here, but what I'm saying is analyze project documents, okay? Let me see if I can pull that. There, that's better. So before you even go, you send a copy, you give access to the entire file that the Rotary Foundation has on this project. All the application, the community assessment of the goals and measurement, the budget of financing, the training plan, the monitor and evaluation plan, the local and international Rotary plan for participation, what collaborations and communication documents there are as well. This takes quite a while to read all this, and all the time you're reading it, you begin to make notes or start to focus on areas that you think are going to be important to confirm when you're later there as a cadre. And you also interview the international sponsor. It used to be you had to do it by email, but now with Zoom, that's been a great plus for Zoom, that I can now communicate with that club in another area of the world before I even go or after to understand their participation level. And all the while, like I said, as you're doing this, you're working on determining what areas and topics to focus on in the visit. These are some major project errors and sustainability, positive sustainability actions that I've witnessed in virtually all my cadre experiences, and these are ones that are, announced and promoted by the foundation. Many on the right or on the left, or on the right rather, are really the averse almost of some of the errors that you see on the left. It's sad to say, but number 4, lack of Rotarian participation is a common problem. And the foundation always wants to see how clubs are stimulating Rotarian participation in the projects. I don't think the time permits me to talk about a lot of these, but I think they're fairly self-evident when you look at them. You can ask me questions maybe later. So to be more effective and helpful, you have to understand that you get dropped into this situation, right? You do as much as you can beforehand. Maybe you have a Zoom meeting with the host committee, which we did this last time. That was a nice feature too. But at some point you arrive and you have to get to know people as quick as you can. You want to develop confidence. You want them to trust you, to think you're approachable, to think you have something to offer, and obviously to not feel bad for having prepared for somebody that came and they didn't like, right? So you have to be able to move in and build that confidence as fast as you can with people. But along the way, you're being observers as possible, always observing, and you can't help it. You're just seeing things that are new to you, and you're trying to take note of what's significant, particularly for what you're trying to analyze and determine as why you're there as a cadre. Always trying to act in a supportive manner, always recognizing the challenges the club has, but they will come back to you and say, well, we got this problem, and you want to help them legitimize that problem, and of course, along the way, look for ways to resolve that problem. You explain the rationale for cadre reviews to those who ask, and sometimes that happens when you attend one of their club meetings, and somebody will ask, well, why are you here? Why are you here? And of course, you're always talking about global grant funding standards and requirements. The first meeting on the first day is always a meeting with the host project committee. You're there to confirm the plan that you've done by email. You're there to answer any questions they may have, review logistics, and then of course you then begin to ask questions of the project committee to help determine the level of their involvement in this, their planning, their participation, as well as the participation of other members of the committee. Then until the last day, you're basically on the move. You're going from, in my case, from one school site to another, or maybe a place where books are stored, or anyway, something to do with education. You might go to a ministry office or a canton government office to interview somebody there. But you're trying to interview and observe and come in contact with all those folks that you see listed there under observe and interview. And this is always different in every project, so it's hard for me to describe it much more than that at this point. But from after that first meeting on the first day until the very last meeting on the third day, this is what you're doing, going around trying to collect information through that process. The last session is on the last day is by design and by requirement of the foundation to give a feedback session. And so as a cadre, you're responsible for coming to that meeting and identifying them positive areas and areas in need of improvement. And what I call plus delta. And you first identify positives, and hopefully these are things that you've already shared with them along the way. You're not trying to come in there and surprise them, but you identify those things that you think they're doing very well, and then you try to facilitate a discussion among the members of that club who are at the meeting about ideas for expanding or scaling up what they're doing well and creating greater effectiveness. At the same time in this meeting, you're also obligated to share 3 to 5 areas that you recommend for improvement, or areas that maybe they're really in trouble, I mean, even. And these again are not, they should not be surprises. These should be things that you've already started to describe or help them understand while you're going along, you know, shoulder to shoulder with them to these different spots on the 3 days of the visit. And then lastly, as part of that, you again try to facilitate a discussion between them about what strategies they might consider to correct or improve that problem area, and of course try to get them to identify some next steps that they can latch onto as something to do fairly soon in that area. This is just some quick photos of the visits. You can see me. One time I had to go out in a boat out on into the Caribbean Sea to get from where the hotels and the Rotary Club and the government offices were to the site. And that was a new one for me, but you know, I'm up for it, and you go do it. On the right at the top, I'm meeting with a teacher, 2 teachers, and we're talking over her implementation of the curriculum in this project. On the lower right, those kids are all kids suffering from spina bifida, and this is in Colombia. And on the right is a presentation being given to students, adolescents in school about spina bifida. This project had both a treatment for support the treatment and training of these kids in this center, and at the same time they were doing a massive PR campaign on radio, television, with university, pharmaceutical, celebrity endorsements, as well as these workshops in classrooms to inform people about the need for women who to have a minimum level of folic acid in their body before they conceive. Because if they don't have that minimal level, then the danger of spina bifida for the infant is greatly increased. And it's not in typical, I guess, in the Colombian diet for there to be a lot of folic acid. Whereas in the U.S., I understand we historically handled a lot of that back when they decided to enrich white bread. Anyway, so here I am in a couple of classrooms. I go in, I try to meet the students. They're curious, always curious who I am, why I'm there. It's always an opportunity for some adolescent to say something funny, to try to get his classmates to laugh. But you can see on the right side, these kids are all got a textbook. It's the first time in their lives they've had a textbook. First time in this middle school or this age school where they've had textbooks. And we take it so nonchalant, like a given, that we have textbooks. And yet these kids, all their previous experience in most rural schools in Ecuador is all information comes out of the mouth of the teacher. And so they have very little curriculum. Lower left, I'm there interviewing some parents. Lower right, I'm interviewing some teachers. That's again part of how I gather information. Here on the left, I'm walking around the school, accompanying the school principal, and we're having a continuous dialogue about education and the challenges she faces there. On the lower right, I'm again with some parents and some Rotarians as we're finishing an interview. And in the upper center, I'm speaking to a Rotary Club. As I said, sometimes we're there on the day of a Rotary Club meeting, and they invite you to the meeting, and you want to go, you want to get to see the club, feel it out. And I always have a few minutes to talk about what is a cadre, why am I here, why does the foundation have us doing this? And that's when I get the question sometimes about, well, don't they trust us? And I explain, well, do you donate to the Rotary Foundation? And over half the room raises their hands that they do. And I said, well, this is a way to assure that trustees do that as one strategy to assure that your donations are being well spent on effective projects. But after you get home from the visit, you still got stuff to do. You have to finalize that report of the feedback session, which was taking handwritten notes during the session. You have to type it up and distribute it to the project leaderships and the Rotary clubs, as well as to the foundation project managers. Then you have to complete the evaluation form of your visit. This is the main report that the foundation wants. It's all online. It's about 50 questions. And so it takes a while to complete, but you, in advance of that, as preparation, I didn't mention this, but you print out a copy of it, you take it with you, so at least you have it there, that you're always periodically putting notes around the questions about things you've seen or you think support or do not support, whatever that question's about. So it helps you to be proactive so that when you get back home, you haven't forgotten everything and you can do the report. Then you complete an expense report. The foundation expects us to pay for all of our expenses up front, except for the air flight. And then we have to file an expense report to get reimbursed for, usually it's for hotel. Oftentimes I don't pay for a single meal. The Rotarians feed you all the time. And then, but you get other incidentals, like I buy a cell phone card. I had to get COVID testing now before I fly. That's covered and so forth. So the foundation does a good job of supporting you, but yes, we are volunteers, and that's the way it should be. So I just a few highlights, if I may. The best part about all this for me as a person is that I've gained so much by meeting these Rotarians and the educators and students and parents, and I'm continuously marveled, frankly, at the creativity and the persistence and dedication of Rotarians in these different parts of the world where I've been able to serve. But a few little bulleted items, I'll show you something. That class of adolescents, you saw the books, it's the first time they had a textbook. So something that to us is so commonplace in the U.S., it's just amazing to see the joy in the eyes of kids when they're hugging these new books, some of them. After one of our WASH projects, a father of 8 told me that it was really good that the cadre visit. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a cadre visit. He told me when I was there as a cadre that the cadre visit was proof, he said, that Rotary cared to know how well its projects was working. So that was good feedback. And then the last one is from one of our own water projects. We're there walking through the town after the inauguration of the project, and people always come up to us and thank us, right? I mean, they're grateful, and we let them know that we appreciate that. And we're glad to be here to help them, and it's what we do, and we're so happy they got water. But this one elderly man came up to me. He might have been over 80 years old. He's kind of hobbling along. He's real skinny. He's what they call a pelado. He has no money. He's very poor. And he grabs my elbow, and he's got like a pincher grip, and he won't let go. And he says, yeah. And I said, yeah, I know. Well, we're glad to help you. We're glad. No, thank you. No, we're glad to help. No, you don't understand. And he's really shaking my arm. And says, okay, see, help me understand. Please tell me. And he says, this is the first time in my life that I've had a shower in my own home. And it was an area of WASH that I never thought too much about before. I mean, sure, I've lived in places where I have to do a cup shower. I know the reality, but it was just another dimension that got to me how excited this old man was that he didn't, he's going to have a shower, and he's here, for all his life he's never had one. And it was an outdoor shower, but just to have the water there, the convenience to be able to turn it on and so forth. So thank you very much for listening. There's some stats on me if you want to contact me. This is an old abandoned water project I found out in the forest with another Rotarian one day. We heard it was there, so we just went on a hike to see the forest and the howler monkeys, and there it was. And so I got that photo. So thank you very much. And back to you, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, that was fantastic. Bill joins us fairly often. And this is just another example of somebody who joins us, has all this experience, and really we just don't know it. Bill is a fountain of information here, and that's why I think Steve recommended that he speak to us, because Bill, you have just a ton of information to share, a ton of experience, and I can see why you're a cadre. Yeah, and one question that came to mind for me was I'd heard of the cadre program within Rotary, but I really didn't know much about it. So I really appreciate you giving us all the different ins and outs of what a cadre does and how they help projects. And I think that's so, like you were saying earlier about Rotary wanting to make that kind of the future of building sustainability into our projects and consistency. I can see how that would really work. But are you familiar with the International Rotary Action Group, WASH Rotary Action Group, WASH-RAG?
Yes, I'm a member. Yeah.
You are? Okay. And how would you say the services they provide are different or the same as what the cadre program provides?
Oh, well, insofar as WASH goes, of course, I would think
Yeah.
there'd be a lot of similarities, right? I think
Right.
that But you have to want to me, my experience with WASH so far is that, well, for example, that there's not a WASH committee here in the district. We've just never gotten around to forming one. So what you're doing in Denver is commendable. So that might make it have a different effect here. But what I'm thinking about cadres is they're now all over the world, all right? And there's more and more to promote more of them. And for our friends there from Uganda or Kenya, also you write to cadre@rotary.org, and you can ask them, how do you become a cadre? You can also ask them if they can give you the names of cadres or for contact purposes in your area of the world, in Africa, for example, okay? And there's cadres in Africa. It depends upon what area of your project involves and who they send. But that resource, just cadre@rotary.org, is very useful. And that's partly what I'm getting. Now they have what they're calling regional cadre coordinators. They didn't have that before. They've been scaling up the organization of cadres. So like in my district, there's now one of us. There are now 6 cadres in my district. And I was the first one when I came here. I came here as a cadre. There weren't any here in Ecuador until I came here. And not that I helped get a lot of them going, I'm just saying, but now there's 6, right? And so one of us has been selected as a lead person for the cadres in this district. So Rotary's promoting that kind of scaling up of organizational support. It's all volunteer, of course. And we've been holding meetings here, for example, cadre meetings among Latin American cadres, all right? And it's all in Spanish, of course. And I mean, I presented the other day as part of a group of Rotarians in Chile. See, so cadres are doing that, and how that parallels and fits with WASH, perhaps others can better explain that. But it seems to me they're both paralleling trying to do the same kind of work.
Yeah, because as you were talking, I was thinking along the same lines that from what I know of WashRag, they you can submit your WASH Global Grant application to them, your community assessment, and they can go through it and improve it so that the chances of it being approved by Rotary is better.
Yeah, well, that's what as cadres are supposed to try to do as well. That's true.
Right.
Even though I'm a member of WashRag, I've never sent in a proposal to them to review. I should probably do that.
Yeah, and
you learn something. You learn something. So.
Just as an aside, one benefit of that is that they used to have, and they might still have it, they'll donate a certain amount of money toward your project if you submit your project for review. So you can raise a little bit of money for your project that way.
Yeah.
Say, Chris, this is Steve, and I think they're complementary, except WashRag doesn't have the money to send people on site. And the Rotary Foundation is, as a foundation, having that fiduciary responsibility to make sure the money was spent well and the project turned out well, has the money to send volunteers like Bill. But I think for everybody on the call, using both would be good. At the early stage of a global grant, you could send in your proposal and have it reviewed remotely by a WashRag volunteer. And then once the project's underway or after it's been approved, the Rotary Foundation would send somebody like Bill to go on site to do the review, or maybe towards the end of the grant to see how it turned out. So they, it's not like one or the other. Anybody that's working on a global grant could use both avenues to make their project the best possible.
Well, and I would add, as a cadre, I've been consulting with people who are doing projects in economic development and health, okay? Because I know the basic rules, right? I'm not an expert in that area, but I help them understand the basic framework. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, that, both of these are opportunities for assistance in developing our projects.
Yeah.
Chris, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for the presentation. It was very informative, very useful. You're lucky living in Ecuador, the center of the world. I'm sorry, there are lots of centers of the world, of course. But one of my successes you indicated that the first project was inaugurated by the mayor. One of my successes was when I was in Ecuador and had projects in 1,000 communities. One of the first inaugurations, I had one of my coworkers who was Ecuadorian and had the local connections, invite the Minister of Health to do the inauguration.
Sure.
And the cool thing about that is the Minister of Health also talked with the community while he was there. And he totally revamped how the Ministry of Health did water and sanitation back in 1992 based on what he saw. And he even tried to give my program his World Bank water and sanitation funding, $32 million, but the World Bank clarified that that was a multilateral loan and they couldn't give it to a nonprofit. So do you try to get high-level ministry people into inaugurating or evaluating these projects so that they buy the methodology?
Well, we could do more of that with the Department of Health. We haven't done much with them because they've been basically, well, every time we talk to them, even about other community projects here with the Rotary Club, they're always very resistant. Like we were helping to go out there and get people identified for COVID shots, and they didn't want us to help them. You know, they didn't want us to work with us at all. But with the water ministry, well, we've had what we call regional directors come to the inaugurations. I've never had the actual minister come, but I am actually consulting on an education project where I met the Minister of Education, and because this is more of a transnational project that this club is looking at. So I think it's a good idea. The more political support you can get or authoritative support from people who the public expects to know the answers, it's good to have them there. I agree. Thank you.
Other questions? Yep, Chris.
Yeah, if I may, one of the things, eWash Club, which is a member of WashRag and also supposed to be one of the expert clubs on wash topics. One of the things that we're doing is developing criteria to identify excellence in projects. And Bill, I shared our draft review methodology. But even after working in water and sanitation, I find when I look at these evaluation criteria, I say, oh my gosh, I've got to set up a fee collection. I've got to set up get the water committee elected. I've got to, things that good professionals know, but when you've got a set of review criteria, you say, oops, I slipped up on that, better get it in there. So just an idea. Thank you.
Well, I agree. I would appreciate having such a list as you're putting it. You know, it would be handy. One of the challenges I've seen in needs assessment is I guess I'm just saying recording data, recording observations. You know, you get out there and you start writing, and pretty soon you're distracted and you forget all about writing. That's what happens to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. On one of the things that somebody turned me on to, and I don't remember who, was the M-Water survey methodology. And so I've created M-Water surveys for communities, for schools, for just point of use water filters, for malaria projects. and they are immensely cool. You design the survey, you download it to cell phones that people have, and when they collect the data in the field with this simple survey, it automatically uploads to your survey, and then you can download it to Excel spreadsheets. So my latest survey from rural Uganda is something like 313 households, 20 different data points for each household, photos for many of the households. And, you know, with an Excel spreadsheet, I can analyze it in minutes. It's just astonishing what this GIS technology allows you to do. Probably lots of you have used it, but I've just started using it, and my collaborators in the field say, wow, this is terrific. We can just walk into the household by household and put in this data, and we've got it, you've got it, everybody's got it, and we can all analyze it, and etc.
And what's it called again?
It's imwater.com, and it's portal.imwater.co for some reason.
Can you type it on the chat? That would be
I'll
helpful.
pop it on the chat.
Thank
But
you.
I mean, there are many variations, but imwater is free. It downloads to your collaborators. It's just, I mean,
You know,
it's
I'm
a
pretty sure that
yeah.
pretty sure that's a system Neil Van Dyne used to map all of Haiti, the whole country. And
He's using that, right?
right. Yeah, so he gave a little talk on that about a year ago or so, and yeah, it was pretty impressive to see all that it can do, and how he was using it then to go to the ministry. I forget, it was the Ministry of Health or somebody along that line to strategize on how best to bring clean water to the entire country, because the data is there. Once he had it input, then he could show where the needs were, and it was very, very helpful. Yeah.
I know, this is Steve again, sorry for talking again, but I know the founders of mWater, and they're really terrific. They're very helpful. And I've used them a lot in some of the formal work consulting projects that I'm working on. So I would recommend that you check them out. And if you see a need that they might be able to fill, you can reach out to them. At the very least, they'll give you good advice and help point you in the right direction, but maybe they would be a partner on some of your projects.
Excellent. Oh, and Bill, Anthony asked if you could somehow share, or if you have them available, share your hygiene posters.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to figure. I don't know. I don't have them. Another Rotary Club produces them. So I don't think they're available. Well, I don't know if they're even available in digital format. I kind of doubt that. I'll have to find out.
Okay. Yeah, if possible, or anybody else on the call here today that has, pre-made posters, digital posters, just let me know, and I can post them up on our website for Anthony or anybody else to access. That's a good point. We've had that question come up from time to time, and finding good posters is really helpful in being able to present the material to people.
Right.
Good. Thanks, Anthony. Let's see here. Chris Roselle just put something up about some posters, or a survey, I'm sorry, a village survey. Take a look at the chat, and there's a little bit of information in there for you. And any other comments, questions for Bill? Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill. And
You're welcome.
excellent to learn more. Yeah, I learned a lot with your presentation. Thank you.
So what I put in the chat is just an example of the in-water survey that I just downloaded to Excel from in-water from Uganda, and it's dated 4/28 because that's when my collaborator sent me for those villages in Oyum district, for those of you who know Uganda, Eric. But it's just slicker in belief. If you've got good questions and the people if they have cell phones, and they don't even need the cell phone connection to upload it, they can go offline and collect the data, and then when they get the connection, upload it. It's just astonishing.
Is there a charge for using that software, Chris? No?
Totally free. All of it's free. Just astonishing.
Real good. Well, thanks again, Bill, and thanks, Chris, for the info. Let's move on. It's just about 1 o'clock here, and we'd like to move on to the Colorado Women's Day results. Peter and I met with Deborah last week and got a little update on the results of the Women's Day conference back on March. I want to say March 12th. Is that right? No, 10th. 10th is right. 11th. There we go.
Okay.
It was several days long.
All right. Whatever.
But it was a great event. Several of us attended. It was well attended, had great speakers, great displays and information booths available, quite a few of them actually, and just a lot of great information, great people there. So good job, Deborah, and your team who put that all together. It was, I'm sure, a huge amount of work, but great success. And the reason we're bringing Deborah back is because we want to highlight not just the conference or the Women's Day event. We want to just talk about how our WASH committee here has cooperated with the 9Power Foundation to promote WASH. And Deborah's going to talk about that a little bit, because that's what the foundation does. And through that foundation, the proceeds that came out of the Colorado Women's Day went to help promote and support financially 3 of our projects in 3 of our district WASH projects, I should say. And we wanted to try to get information about those projects to you. Let me get that list to you here so I can introduce the 3 projects. We had the Village Health Partnership, promoted by Denver Southeast Rotary Club, the WASH for Girls and Women in Kenya, through the Westlands Rotary Club, I believe that's in Kenya. And the MOP, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, MOPI Cameroon Community Women and Children's Water Sanitation and Feminine Care, again out of Denver Southeast. So we wanted to get a little bit of those 3 projects are going to be receiving a portion of the funds, the proceeds from the Colorado Women's Day event, thanks to 9Power Foundation. And we want those to give you a little information about those 3 projects so that you understand what they're about and why we felt these projects were important to be promoted through the Colorado Women's Day event and deserved the award of these of the funds, and how they represent helping women and girls around the world in WASH, in different aspects of WASH. So Deborah, after we introduce the 3 projects, I'd like you then to talk about the 9Power Foundation, if that's all right. Great. We have Carol Carper on the line from Kenya. And Carol, would you talk about your project, please? You're still muted, Carol. There you
Could
go.
you share the screen? I have 3 pictures.
Yeah, you should be able to. Go ahead and share. There we go. It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Isn't it amazing? So first of all, I want to recognize many of you that I see on here that I know already, and I want to thank Deborah and Peter Van Arsdale and Steve specifically because they know a lot about this program that we're doing. We sort of backed into empowerment of women. It wasn't necessarily a goal to begin with. Let's see if I can get this picture up. Okay, so I did want to recognize this is not directly related to WASH, but we have a large farm program, and we have 50 acres under, they're raising 50 acres are raising organic hay that is sold to dairy farmers. And out of 14 farmer teachers, all of whom have 30 farmers under them, 10 of them are women. So it's a good example of how women's empowerment just happens if you're working on the ground and really doing the work. So the primary program that we were talking about was this teen program. It was a global grant. We're now done with it. And we were in 22 government schools with 927 youths, both males and females. And we talked for a year, not I, but the youth did, talked for a year about all the things teens like to talk about, like pregnancy, sex, drugs, all of those kinds of things. A part of the grant was to money, it was there in the global grant, each school could apply for a small grant. The majority of those grants were around WASH. And we've done some stats on these 22 schools. Only 2 of them have adequate latrine facilities for both boys and girls. So a lot of the money that, a lot of the grants were actually asking for like water catchment to wash them, hand washing stations, trying to make it better for girls in the school to go ahead and be in school when they were in the middle of their menses and might need to go to the latrine and wash up and so on. So something that we had not anticipated is that our program did all of this, but it also turned out to be about cultural change. Girls and boys, men and women don't talk about sex and drugs and STIs together, but in this program, they learned to do that. We had a parent program, and at first, none of the men came because men don't talk about those things in public with their wives. But by the end of it, we were having 90 parents at each meeting talking about these really crucial questions. We figure that our 22 schools out of 96 in our sub-county are probably the tip of the iceberg, in that only 2 of those schools met the basic requirements for pit latrines. And also we surveyed the parents, and only 27% of the parents had latrines at their actual home. So we have a lot of open defecation. I just wanted to do a shout out for this young man. I didn't lead this program. This is Isaiah, and he is the one who led it. He is sort of a Pied Piper. The kids love him, and he's young, and so he can talk about all these things with them. They loved him, and he did a great job, Bill, of reporting, doing his money on time, being transparent, all of those kinds of things. We do have a bridge. We have a bridge period now while we look for bigger funding. The education department has asked us to expand to 96 schools. And they, of course, don't have any money. No big surprise. So now we're looking for a bigger pocket than Rotary. But meanwhile, Isaiah will continue to do things around sexual reproduction, health and sanitation, the whole thing for 6 months, thanks to Denver 31. Questions?
All right, thank you, Carol. Yep, good
Okay.
project. Good project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Could you unshare your screen?
Yep, I'm going up there to do it right now.
Great, thank you. The next project is, if I remember right, Peter, you felt you could speak on, was it the Village Health Partnership?
Yes, I can. And also, do you have someone here to speak about the Cameroon project, Chris?
No, nope, that one didn't work out. If you can share anything you know about it.
I'll tell you what, both Steve and I know both about the Village Health Partnership and about the Cameroon project. So, Steve, how would you like to share the comments on both of these?
Nope, Steve, you're muted.
Yeah,
there. Yep.
yeah, sorry. I'll chip in, Peter, a little bit after you take the lead.
Okay, so Steve and I will share on both of those projects, Chris, since they're both through our club, Denver Southeast. And
Thank you.
thanks, Steve. And thank you, Chris. And thank you, Carol. It is terrific to see you, the wonderful work you've done, the commitment you, Isaiah, and our other friends in West Kenya have demonstrated. It's remarkable. And we often think of you here and talk about you and the work you've done here in Denver. That's a fact. It's just terrific. And I'm delighted you're one of the award winners. The other two award winners, I'm delighted to say, since Steve and I have been able to contribute in ways to them. The first I'll share is the Village Health Partnership. This works in Southwest Ethiopia, and it features work toward helping at-risk women and girls, and helps with WASH systems associated with those at-risk women and girls in nearly a dozen communities. The program has three broad components to it. It has training to engage local folks in medical and healthcare practices, and particularly training for midwives. And the money that Deborah's foundation is generously donated through Colorado Women's Day is specifically going to go toward midwife training, and specifically midwives in remote tribal areas, extreme Southwest Ethiopia, not far from South Sudan. That's how far Southwest it is. Midwives who, to be frank, have struggled a bit in their certification. Then they need a boost, a leg up, and more training. So these midwives, of course, in turn will help particularly pregnant women and at-risk women, but the midwives themselves are going to benefit from the dollars so that their certification and training, frankly, can be improved. So that is just a terrific targeting, thanks to Deborah and her colleagues. Other things that the Village Health Partnership does, engage Rotary and Rotarians. And I'll give Steve a chance to speak in just a second. I was just going to say generically, in areas even such as fistula and uterine prolapse, and getting folks who've struggled with fistula and uterine prolapse in for surgery. And believe me, in that area, it's tough. They have to be transported long distances. And then finally, working with the medical system there and the medical training hospital, which covers everything from basic care to governmental relations. So I'll let Steve now chip in. He's our district Rotary champion for this particular agency.
So VHP, or Village Health Partnership's been around for many years. It was started by a gentleman here in Denver and has had support from a number of donors. When Bill Muldrow passed away, his daughter, who actually went with him at a very young age every year to Ethiopia, carried on the the work that he started. And so Miggs Muldrow is a physician here in town, and she has brought together a really good team of people to be on our board and to serve as volunteers. And Peter's a great example of one of their board members. So they're very careful about their approach. They work closely with the government. They don't want to be just a group that comes in from the outside and is doing something for a short while, and then there's no infrastructure, meaning both physical infrastructure and human resource infrastructure to keep the work going in between the time that the volunteers come to work with in the community. And so their work has been very high quality, very sustainable. Miggs is very much focused on having people on the ground to continue the work that she can communicate with, along with the volunteers like Peter, so that it's not just drop in, do some work, leave, and then nothing really happens till the next year. She has a really good team on the ground. So it's been a pleasure to know Bill originally and work with Miggs and support what they're doing. And that's why I agreed to be somebody to help promote Village Health Partnership in District 5450. But they, again, work in very remote locations where a lot of other groups don't work, not to say that other groups don't work in challenging environments. But I hope that maybe we can have a program in the future from VHP to give an update on their work. Maybe even Miggs, if she can break away from her day job as a physician. So I think that's all I can add at this time. But thanks, Peter, for all.
Thank you, Steve. And by the way, Miggs just told me yesterday that she would like to attend our symposium if possible, either as an attendee or as a presenter, whatever we think might be best. So that's late-breaking positive news. Chris, would you like me to say something about the Cameroon project now? And again, Steve can also chip in here.
Yes, yeah, please.
So the Cameroon project, again, with the Denver Southeast in the lead, under a very fine gentlemen who Steve and I have known well. Steve and I have served as, I might say, secondary advisors to their program. It's under their auspices. They've done most of the work, but Steve and I have advised on everything from program evaluation to fundraising to village outreach. And that's, I think it's safe to say, Steve, been our pleasure to be secondary advisors to them. The program has been in 7 villages in Cameroon. And again, the money that Deborah's group is generously donating will go to the 7th of the 7 villages, the most recent, Mape, which you mentioned, Chris, in your introduction. They're basic water folks. And these 7 villages have benefited from water systems, water system development. And again, much as Bill Stumbaugh told us about the value of having the communities intimately involved in leadership, the Cameroonian communities are intimately involved in the water system development and leadership. We've looked, for example, at some of the plans where the lines are growing up the side of one mountain and down the side of another mountain. Storage tank on the top, pump on one side, service of a village on the other side. They have very sophisticated, actually, line drawings and site drawings that they use. And those are also developed in large part by local engineers, Cameroonian people. So this is a 5-year plus commitment now to this program with this 7th village underway. So that's a brief overview. And again, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Well, just a tiny bit to add, and that is that Josh Knight has been very active in our committee in the past. As his work has gotten busier, he can't participate as much as he used to, but he's been co-chair of our district committee, co-chair of the symposium. I'm only mentioning that because he previously worked for Engineers Without Borders, and so he's also very knowledgeable about, again, how to work with the community. So he and his organization are not just dropping in, doing some work, leaving, and then they don't know what's going on after they leave. They work closely with the community, and they go back regularly to visit, and they visit the communities where they've done projects. So, and Chuck Barr from Denver Southeast has been helping Josh as well. So, Peter and I like Josh. He's very positive, very enthusiastic, but also very knowledgeable. And he is very open to new ideas, getting help from anybody. And I know he really appreciates the support that so many District 5450 clubs have provided to his work and the work in all those communities that Peter just mentioned.
Thanks, Steve. And the one last thing I wanted to say, in talking about the Village Health Partnership, I don't have this online, but I'm just going to show you a picture we took of the ladies who are benefiting. I'm just going to put it right up here as if it were online.
Screen sharing. I like it.
Holding a photo. How do you like that? Here's the ladies. What I was telling you about the benefit. They're a ribbon cutting for a new pregnant women's waiting center. Pretty cool. Thanks a lot, Chris, for your time.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it. Thanks, Steve. 3 real good projects, and we have 9 Power Foundation to thank for their donations. And Deborah, would you tell us a little bit more about the foundation and what you focus on?
Yes. I would like to do a share screen.
Should be able
There
to.
it
Yeah.
is right there. Let's see if I can bring it up. Let's see, is it coming up? Do y'all see a page that says Pages for the Planet?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much. And we're deeply honored to be able to help the Rotary projects that are working on activities and projects to bring clean water to people in dire need. This is very near and dear to our heart. Because of us being in the water business, and we have been for a long time, and advocating for clean water for everyone, because if you don't have clean water, you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere from there. What I wanted to point out on this page is that another program also came out of Colorado Women's Day, our annual event this year, and that is the Pages for the Planet. And we are raising funds, not for the books, because we have books, we can get books, but the shipping the materials over to Zambia and Sierra Leone, where we're working with SSAAP to build 3 libraries. This is another program that came out of Colorado Women's Day, and we're working with the Jefferson County Library Foundation to acquire the books. But I'll tell you what, I really would like to take a minute and talk to you about heavy metals. And you're probably thinking, what? Heavy metal rock band? No, we're not into heavy metal rock bands. we don't, we aren't either. And that's one of the things that 9 Power Clean Water works on, is getting heavy metals out of water, out of industrial water. So it, again, that's near and dear to our heart as well. The United Nations Environment Program has come forward and said that water pollution, not just water, getting water, but water pollution is a major problem around the world. Here, this expert from UNEP is talking about the fact that we don't have enough information, we don't have enough data for many countries, and particularly for the continent of Africa. We know that in Bangladesh, India, they have a huge water pollution problem, but we don't know as much as we need to know about what's going on in Africa. And that's important. I'm just going to flip through these two slides, all about the nexus between women and water, and how much water it takes to keep somebody alive each day and happy. Hold on just a second here. Let's see. Okay, but there are other contaminants that are in this water that we're bringing to people. I mean, we're doing a great service by digging these wells and getting them water and everything. And frequently we're testing for, folks are testing for E. coli and coliform and bacteria and all these things. And it's important because so many people die every day from water contaminants and pollution. But one thing that we're not looking at enough is the heavy metals. And I found this out when I started working with Heather Cumming at SSAP. I said, are you testing for other things besides E. coli? And she goes, oh no, the water's clean, and we don't have any E. coli. I said, well, what about all of these other things that can be in the water that you're giving these folks? Heavy metals like arsenic, antimony, cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, selenium, pesticides, and then of course what we normally are scanning for in these projects, which is viruses, bacteria, parasites, etc. Just to take one of these, just a quick look at one of these things that can be in the water that we're digging wells for. And it comes from, a lot of times it's coming from mining and naturally occurring things. Just taking one look at one of these things is arsenic. And arsenic is a heavy metal, and it's widely distributed throughout the planet. And if you're not testing for it, then you don't know that if you're giving these folks water that will eventually kill them. This is a problem that has been most focused on and reported in Bangladesh, and India, but arsenic is one of the many metals, heavy metals, that can be in water in Africa. And just here's a slide about some of the things that it can do to the body, just this one heavy metal that could be in there. And they can get it from food, soil, air. They can breathe it in, they can eat it, they can drink it. And as we continue to mine so much of Africa for all of its precious resources, we're also making a mess out of their continent by contaminating it with the different chemicals that Westerners are bringing in there, and we're stirring up ones that are naturally occurring. Arsenic, again, is an example of one that is naturally occurring in some places. We have it here in much of our groundwater in Colorado, but arsenic's used in mining processes. So a lot of Africa is being mined. If your village is close to a mine, that even if it's closed now, they could still have groundwater contamination with some of these heavy metals. Arsenic can do just horrible things to the human body. And again, this is just one of the many things that could be in this water, and why we're advocating for testing of water. Here it's talking about arsenic in the soil. Here's some more arsenic damage to folks. Arsenic in Africa. Here, again, the UN is now waking up and saying, you know, this is something that we need to be testing for when we go into these developing areas and remote locations. They're testing for E. coli, or they're testing for bacteria, but heavy metals could also be causing health problems for a lot of these folks. And there's field kits for other heavy metals. Arsenic has its own field kit, $114 here, 100 tests. You could test 100 wells to make sure, excuse me, that all of your wonderful projects to bring water to people are not slowly killing them. Also in the process with heavy metals such as arsenic. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to get in a plug for. It's what we're very much concerned with at 9 Power is getting the heavy metals out of water. And we're finding, the more we talk to people and the more research we do, that wells are being dug for developing countries, but the water is not getting the proper testing that it needs to. So
Yeah, Deborah, this has been brought up before in a meeting or two in the past, and you're bringing the point home, and I appreciate that. I think we need to see if we could put together some sort of a presentation on a lot of the different heavy metals and contaminants in water and how to test for them, and put that together for another meeting, because I think that's important. It's not something we want to ignore, because we talk about clean water. Then it begs the question, well, what is clean? And that's what you said at the beginning. Clean isn't always what we think it is. So the testing is really important to make sure it truly is safe water, not just what we would think as clean. It needs to be safe.
exactly, yeah. And so
Appreciate that.
sorry I got on my little soapbox and everything this afternoon, but we're just seeing it more and more every day, that not enough attention is being paid to the other contaminants and the other pollutants that are in the drinking water that we're bringing to these folks.
Right, right. Well, that's good. And that's good work that the foundation does to make people aware of that. Carol, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask the I'm gonna ask the follow-up question. So if I were to find arsenic in my water, what would I do about it, Deborah?
There are treatments for getting arsenic out of water. We are working on a new type of system, which will be easy to use in the field to take arsenic out. But there are ways of getting it out of the water and treating the water.
Yeah, I think we need, Chris, it's not only what it might be in the water, but it's also what do we do about it in the field with very, very limited resources. And
Right.
I know in the past we did tests and we brought them from the School of Mines and they were of no use because we could not keep them cold realistically in our environment and they needed to be cold. So it's also, how do you use these if you're low tech and no money?
Well, these, like for instance, this one.
I think Deborah, for the sake of time, we're pretty much out of time.
Okay.
I think, Carol, I think what we need to do is put together another presentation that addresses that question, because it's a good question. Yeah, you if you find it, then what? What do you do? And I'm sure there's a lot of information out there. We just need more time to be able to dive into it. So we just can't do that right now. But excellent topic, and we'll definitely see what we can put together. But I didn't want to ignore Anthony here. I didn't realize Anthony is also on as part of the Westlands Rotary Club in Kenya. And Carol, is he involved in your project as well?
No, but Anthony and I know each other.
Oh, okay. And Anthony, I don't know if did you want to say a couple words about the work there, or is what Carol said enough?
No, there is that project for girls and women that RC Westlands applied, and I think it was listed as among the 3 projects. I don't know if maybe I had to say just a few words about it, because I happened to make the application through the RC Westlands as a project deputy director for that.
Okay. Yeah, please. If you want to.
Yeah.
Say
so maybe if I can just take 2 minutes to just, say a few words about that project. Many have said a lot about, water. But in many cases, girls and women are always the one who faces the brunt of water challenges and problems. And we happen to be in an informal settlement where there is very high water rationing. We have like only 2 days where we get water, from the county government. And sometimes maybe it is not there. So you can have, a whole week without water. And so you see women with the jerry cans or, bays, looking for water and finding any source of water at that time to either wash or clean or, drink. So there's this project that we are trying to get clean and, underline the word safe, because clean might not mean safe at the time where there is rationing or there's these old pipes that water is passing through and people drinking just whatever that is there. So we look forward in constructing at least having a water tank where it can serve the community at the point of rationing, because we find out that even where we have residents staying there, or maybe family staying there, there's no storage, water storage, whereby when there is rationing, you will have people getting water. They still just walk either in the nearby river or where there is water and get that. And apart from that, also there's issue of sanitation and hygiene. We don't have really basically female-friendly latrines. They're just latrines, and issues of girls in menstrual management is very poor, and we want this project to deal with that. Apart from the providing clean and safe drinking water, for that, and also reduce this stigmatization of young girls and women in terms of water related and diseases and challenges within the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. And good project. We'll be working with you on that application, and we want to get everybody. We wanted everybody to have a chance to introduce their project. And thank you again, Deborah. Any closing comments? We're a little overdue here, but any last comments that you'd like to make before we finish up?
Chris, since we have a number of our international friends on this call today, I just wanted everybody to know that the WASH Symposium will be hybrid. We'll be meeting in person in Denver, but we'll also be able to connect people around the world through Zoom. We're expecting that we'll have really good sponsor support. So our international visitors up to a certain limit could register free because it'll be underwritten by one of our sponsors. And also students will be able to register free up to a certain number of students, again, because of the strong sponsorship support. So it's going to be October 15, a Saturday. It'll start early in the morning in Denver so that it won't be too late for our international friends to join us. But if you could also spread the word among your friends to let them know, pretty soon the registration will be open, but to mark their calendars for October 15. And also, if anybody has some speakers, the theme is going to be on impact. Thanks to Chris Roselle suggesting this, we want to show how WASH projects can have an impact beyond the infrastructure that's built. And so we'll be looking for speakers who can address that topic in different ways. So anyway, mark your calendars now for October 15.
Good, thank you, Steve. All right, well, we're a little overdue, but thank you for sticking around, and excellent projects. And thank you again, Bill, for your presentation. And I'm going to take the recording from this meeting, put it up on YouTube videos here pretty soon, and I'll send out an email once that's ready to go. But I think you look at the email invitation for this meeting, it has the link to YouTube on it. If you ever want to go back and look at meetings, you'll find it at that address. So that YouTube link will always get you to our meeting recordings. And then Bill, if you don't mind, and Deborah, if you don't mind sending me, if it's okay with you, send me your PowerPoint presentations. I'd like to share them. A few people have asked here in the chat, and I'd like to make those available if that's all right.
Sure.
Good. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you all in another month. Any comments or questions, send them my way, and I appreciate you joining in. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Good night.